Hello out there on YouTube, this is Jim here with my first vinyl kaiju review. Now I know there are a lot of people on YouTube making these kind of videos, but I hope that I've got something unique to bring to the table in my analysis, or perhaps in just some different pieces in my collection. Maybe just my short analysis will be the thing that people enjoy about me, but regardless, today I am reviewing one of my favorite Bandai figures, Titanosaurus. A lot of people consider this one of Bandai's best recent efforts, and it's not hard to see why. This figure really gets a lot of the details just right. It really captures the character. There's not really too much to complain about sculpt-wise. If we're going to nitpick, since we do that with a lot of new figures, especially, for example, the X Plus figure that's coming out, a couple things that are somewhat off are the tail. That should really be longer. As you can see on this figure, it's kind of stubby. That's kind of nitpicking, considering it's a figure that probably cost about $10 when it was brand new. Costs a lot more now, but I'll get to that later. Another detail that's a bit soft there is the antenna. Those should really be thinner, but for something like this, for a vinyl toy that's meant for kids to play with, it's pretty understandable that they would make that soft detail. You don't want those breaking off, and it's kind of hard to sculpt on something like that. So I think it gets a pass for that. But otherwise, the face is perfectly detailed. It's these spots, these black spots, are actually individually carved and painted. So that's excellent detail there. You can see on the chest and abdomen there. That's just about right. The color's not quite right, but again, minor detail with this figure. On the neck, he's got folds, kind of like the suit does. That's another thing that's nice about these recent Bandai vinyls, is that they catch some of the, you could call them imperfections that come from suitmation. But I think it's kind of charming. I enjoy that about the figure. Not really anything to complain about. Everything looks pretty excellent on this figure, actually. Paint-wise, this one's really a standout, because, as I mentioned earlier, each one of these spots is individually painted. The colors on the figure are great. It's got that red tone, yellow and orange kind of mixed in. One detail people noticed a lot on the X Plus figure that was just revealed is this yellow stripe right here. And it's pretty subtle on this figure. Some people had to go back and check their Bandai to remember that it was even actually there. You can see it pretty well in this light, I think. But compared to the X Plus figure, it's much less mustardy, I guess, is the way a lot of people would put it. And I think it looks a lot more film accurate color-wise, actually. You've got your picture of Titanosaurus there on the tag. So it's not perfectly color accurate, but for a Bandai figure like this, that's intended to be played with. And let's see, it's got the prices listed in here, actually. Titanosaurus was 700 yen when it came out, and that's about $7.50, maybe $8 with a really bad exchange rate. Quite inexpensive for a figure that's this excellent. So I gave you some general comments about this figure. Now we're getting to a few more specifics, the kind of typical things people do in these videos. I'm not going to spend too much time with them, but just to say that I did them, we're going to go ahead and do them. So I know some of you are very interested in articulation. That's not really a huge factor for me in my collecting, but so that we cover it, the head rotates. I'm not going to specify degrees. I don't care. If you want to force them 360 degrees, you can do that. That's your prerogative. But the arms, legs, everything, the tail even rotates if you are into that. Very much adequate articulation on a figure of this kind. It pretty much sticks with the traditional points of articulation for a vinyl figure. Nothing to complain about. Scale-wise, it fits into the 6-inch scale. I'm not going to bust out a ruler, but I think we can fairly reasonably estimate that this is a 6-inch tall figure, and 6.5, maybe 7 inches, 6 to 7 inch range. And for comparison's sake, here is the 1954 Godzilla Bandai figure from the 6-inch line. I think that's a fairly common figure that a lot of people have, and you can compare there. He's probably about 5.5 to 6 inches tall, and as you can see, Titanosaurus is a good deal taller, but it's very much in scale. To give you another figure that matches well with this Titanosaurus is another one of my favorite Bandais, the Mechagodzilla from Terror of Mechagodzilla. And these two make an excellent pair, and as you can see, the scale is just about right. I don't have a photo reference at the moment, but nothing to complain about there, that's for sure. And for one more comparison, chat, here is a figure from the 8-inch scale. So that's probably 8 to 9 inches tall, I'm guessing. So you can see, no, you can't see, let me back the camera up. So there you can see that fairly well towers over Titanosaurus, but they are not in the same scale, so that's not something to complain about. So then the other thing that we have to talk about with Titanosaurus is, of course, the fact that he is rather expensive. If you look on eBay, a lot of times the prices on this figure generally start at about $100, and you can usually see them listed at $100 to $120, sometimes $130 if it's got a tag and it is in good condition. You might be able to get it less than that if it doesn't have a tag or if it's a little bit beat up. But it's an expensive figure, so be prepared to pay for it or to look for a deal. I happened to get a pretty good deal on mine. I think it ended up being about $60. But that was not a common deal, I would say. So, if I'm going to give this an arbitrary rating on a scale, I'd probably say it's, well, let's say 9 out of 10. It's not perfect, but it's about as good as you get with a figure of this sort. 9 or 10 out of 10. It's very good. Nothing to complain about. Anyway, thank you for watching my review. I will see you guys soon.